My grandfather was an anti-aircraft gunner on a merchant mariner in World War II. I know the stories because I've heard them told by my mom so many times, but I don't remember if he ever talked about it much. I was very young when he died. I do remember his seaman's hat, that classic navy white hat. He brought it out once, and I remember that when he put it on, he looked younger, dashing, and somehow more stern. They call them the Golden Generation, and I couldn't agree more. They saw evil triumphing in the world and answered the call of their country to stand in the gap against tyranny and tyrant. Sometimes it seems like people are saying there will never be a generation as great. I couldn't disagree more. I have seen this current generation step forward time and again. Step into voluntary service in sandboxes 1,000 miles away. Step onto ships they don't see ports for months and months. They don't make them like they used to. I know, I've said it, heard it said many times. And I know it's a valid complaint. This era of easy Amazon delivery from cheap mass production countries like China have led to a decline in craftsmanship and the will to create. But certainly not everywhere. I have great hope for this generation's returning to the pride of solving a problem creatively with what you have on hand. I spent hours in my grandfather's barn after he died of complications from Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. A musty, cluttered, greasy gloom that once was a turn-of-the-century carriage house. The dirt floor kept me from burning the place down as I tried to make pocket knives out of 10-penny nails and a gas torch and hammer. So many coffee cans, all over the walls and in every nook and cranny. I don't think he ever threw away a nut or a nail. I fear our generation has not yet found the revival of that thrift, the concept of reuse and repurpose. We make trash like my granddad made slingshots. I remember when we made a slingshot together. He didn't call them slingshots. As a product of his West Texas upbringing in the 30s, he called them very casually by a very racist name. It's good to know we have made some improvements from those bad old days. I know he never had a racist thought, a loving man to all he ever met. I can still smell the moist dirt floor carriage house now. Dust, grease, and old metal. Their generation made many things by hand that we simply buy at Walmart or are all skills we have grown too far from these days. I don't have any of his tools. When grandmother sold the home place, when she grew too frail to care for it, the uncles and aunts and then the auctioneer divided the old carriage house contents up. I remember that summer. I remember the too little I helped the halting step of my grandmother as she sorted through the carriage house. Too lost in late teenage angst to hold on to the opportunity I had or to desire a piece of my grandfather's carriage house heritage. He was very ill and very frail the final years. Unfortunately, I remember that more than those good years. Grandmother staunchly stood by and cared for him in the very worst of possible conditions. As he forgot her, forgot his children, and lost control of his emotions and thoughts. Loyalty is a thing I see still in this generation. Loyalty to family has never faded from fashion. Love of what brought us into the world and what shapes us and anchors us. We are pretty good at that still. Maybe. Usually. Grandma has been gone for a few years now. That was hard. A thread that tied us back seemed lost. Granddad left us almost 2 decades previously. He left his war medals and a few pictures, a handsome man with a smile and a heart as big as Texas. I barely remember the funeral. So many people I didn't know. Just 8 or 9 years old and heartbroken that my slingshot maker and joke teller was gone. I do remember the taps and the flag and the sharp crack of the 21-gun salute. The smell of the powder, the shells ejected making sparkling showers of brass in the light. I remember Grandma's slumped, humped back as she took the folded flag from the soldier. I remember my mother's heartbreaking sobs. We all knew how this story would end, but it was a long, tiring road, and the end was no more pleasant for knowing its end. I still miss him. I still miss him. I always will. But I'm trying to follow in his footsteps. Loving my country, loving my wife, loving my children, and making things in a dirty old workshop.